Listen.
1813?
Oh, Welcome to Oddball. Happy Valentine's Day. As you can see, I'm thrilled for this.
Both
Over
of
there,
us.
yeah, somewhere where I don't even know where you are, Charlotte, but you're there.
I'm in New York City, Amin.
For now. We'll be in
Yes.
Indiana by the time this thing airs, probably.
Yes, we will.
Got a packed show today. We've got the second half of our conversation with Claire de Lune. We go over superlatives for the first half of the season. We also have some talk about jerseys, all-star jerseys. Also, let's take a deep dive into Mitch Kupchak's replacements. But the big news of the day, Charlotte, is, as reported by ESPN, the Warriors, apparently ahead of the trade deadline, contacted the Lakers to test the waters on a LeBron to the Warriors type deal. As it goes, Golden State owner Joe Lacob reached out to Lakers owner Jeanie Buss at the behest of Draymond Green, saying, hey, I think there's a chance that LeBron may want to make a move to come and be paired up with Steph Curry. Jeanie Buss said, don't ask me, ask LeBron via his agent Rich Paul. They asked, and the answer was an emphatic no.
I mean, do you think that Draymond is so online that he took everybody who was saying, like, should we do, like, what if they made a super team of old guys? And Draymond was like, oh yeah, what if we did? And called LeBron and was like, what do you say?
I can't believe they didn't just do. If Draymond walks into my office, I'm Mike Dunleavy, and he says, hey man, I think there's a chance we could get LeBron. You know what I would say? Well,
What?
have you asked him?
Yeah.
Why am I going to do this whole thing where I'm going to tell my owner, who's going to tell another owner, who's going to tell their GM, who's going to tell? We just expanded the universe of people who know about this incredibly desperate move.
Yes.
From 2 people, or I guess 3 people, because LeBron would know as well, to about 7 in no time.
Yeah, totally unnecessary.
Now, you know what? This is the part where Draymond needs help. Not all the other stuff. This is the, I hope he gets the help he needs. Because why would you do that? Why was that? And by the way, make no mistake, this is a bad look for the Warriors. You look desperate. All that talk about, oh, just get us there. If we're healthy, we can get it. No, you guys are trying to get LeBron.
Also, though, would have been a fever dream.
Oh, my God. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time.
All right, Amin. On Monday, the Charlotte Hornets announced that they are looking for a new head of basketball operations because former head of basketball operations and the general manager, Mitch Kupchak, is going to transition into an advisory role once the new hire joins the organization. What's going on here?
This happens all the time. Team gets sold. New owner wants to put up his own drapes, his own furniture. He wants to knock out the kitchen, make it open concept. And part of that happens with the first person in line, who is the chief basketball decision maker. That guy usually is the first to go because whatever they bought, they're like, well, unless you bought like the Nuggets right now, having won a title, you're pretty much saying, well, like it wasn't that great what you did. And so the rumors had been swirling already around Charlotte before the season started that, hey, Mitch is out and they're going to hire a certain someone. And as time went on, first of all, it didn't happen. Second of all, the list of certain someones grew to several names. And so what we're seeing now is the official announcement, hey, we're looking for a new chief basketball decision maker. And Mitch Kupchak, who was, of course, not only championship winning general manager in Los Angeles with the Lakers, but also a guy who was groomed by Jerry West and was a college teammate of Michael Jordan, which is why he was in Charlotte to begin with. Friend of Michael. But now Michael is taking a step back. He is now minority owner, and the new guys want their guy in place.
Okay, so I mean, what was the initial name that was circulating, and what are the names that have been added since this since this became obvious to people within the basketball world and now public to those outside of it?
Jeff Peterson, was the original name. Now, Jeff Peterson is the assistant GM with the Brooklyn Nets right now. Prior to that, he was in Atlanta. He was an assistant GM with the Atlanta Hawks. And when he was with the Atlanta Hawks, one of the minority owners in Atlanta was a guy named Rick Schnall. Schnall, you may recognize him now as the new co-chairman of the Hornets. So there was a rumbling behind the scenes like, look, this one's in the bag. It's his guy. He knew him from Atlanta. this is his opportunity to make a splash, to hire someone, a fairly new name, a relative unknown to the general public, but a guy known within NBA circles. And I thought it was done deal going to happen. And then all of a sudden you start hearing the name Trajan Langdon. Now, Trajan Langdon is the GM of the New Orleans Pelicans, but he's not the chief basketball decision maker there because he answers to David Griffin, who's the executive vice president of basketball operations for the Pelicans. So this would be Trajan Langdon's opportunity to call his own shots for his own organization and answer to no one but the owner. You ask, how did Trajan Langdon get on the radar? Well, Trajan Langdon, of course, went to college at Duke University. And the Hornets organization, since the dawn of time, has an infatuation with hiring people and recruiting players who either went to Duke or North Carolina, Wake Forest, or some local connection, trying to tap into that hotbed vein of, oh, we love our hoops down there in the Golden Triangle.
Okay, I mean, so is there anybody else on this list, or is it most likely these two guys?
So you have Mike Gansey. He's the GM in Cleveland, but he answers to Kobe Altman, who is the chief basketball decision maker there. Mike Gansey, some college fans might remember him from his exploits at the collegiate level, but not really much of an NBA playing career, but has worked his way up the ladder through the G League and up into the parent organization. That's one name. And then you have a much bigger name again, Elton Brand. Of course, he's been an all-star. He was a number 1 overall pick. And most importantly, he's been the GM of the 76ers. Currently not the chief basketball decision maker because that's Daryl Morey, but has had experience as the chief basketball decision maker before Daryl Morey got there. And so it's a really weird group when you look at it. And by the way, all 4 of those guys, fairly young. Everyone on that list under the age of 50. So these are young guys, some of them more accomplished than others, but all looking to make a name for themselves. And that's the pool of candidates that the Hornets are picking from.
If you were the new owner of the Hornets, out of these 4 guys, who would you choose?
Oof, this is a tough one. You don't know what people do when they're not the ones calling the shots. Meaning,
yeah,
I can hear that this guy's a smart guy and he's a hard worker and he's this and that, but like, I really don't know, because at the end of the day, whatever suggestion he made, somebody else was like, all right, let's do that. Right. So of those 4 candidates, Elton Brand is the only one that I know that I could, that was his decision.
Right.
Or he was the chief basketball decision maker. And I thought Elton Brand was on a rising trajectory as GM before kind of being derailed by the owner's infatuation with the newer, shinier thing, which was, of course, Daryl Morey. My safe bet is Elton Brand, but all 4 of these guys, again, are people who have been spoken about very highly. And I don't think that anyone would kind of say, no, not him. In a weird way, there's a little part of me is like Jeff Peterson, because I was a guy that didn't play in the league. So I'm like, yo, I'm doing that little bias thing where it's like, yo, you really worked your way up through the muck. Yeah. But again, all 4 of these guys have done it the right way. Like they even, regardless of where their playing careers ended, they worked their way up through the muck, the scouting trips that nobody wants to do, and evaluating talent from Marist versus Siena and things like that, all the way up to the moment that they've all been waiting for, which is the chance to lead their own organization. So I think any one of these guys is a great pick.
You know what my advice to these 4 guys would be in terms of getting the job? Make the owners and the board, whoever's making all of these decisions ultimately, make them think that your good ideas are their ideas, and then they will probably hire you.
Charlotte, you're talking about getting hired.
Yeah.
Let me tell you right now,
what?
The most important thing that a chief basketball decision maker can do in their job is manage up. It's not know talent. It's not know the CBA. It's not have a good relationship with coaches. It's not have relationships overseas. It's none of those things. The most important thing is, can I manage up? Because if I can manage up, I can make a ton of mistakes and keep it moving. But if I can't do this, I could be perfect at everything and one thing up and I'm done. It is the most important skill to have for any chief basketball decision maker. And I would argue to you that all the best ones across the league did a great job of managing up. So it's not just to get the job, it's for keeping the job as well.
There you go.
All right, coming up next, we've got our second half of our conversation with Claire de Lune of The Guardian. Last time, we talked about Jimmy Butler, about some of the surprising storylines in the season so far in the league. This time, we're going to get to her superlatives. Her Defensive Player of the Year. You won't want to miss this one. Her MVP, her Coach of the Year, and much more. All right, let's get into superlatives so far this season. Here at the unofficial midway point. Your MVP is?
All right, so I'm going to go with Shea. I think, here's the thing. Weirdly, so obviously Embiid was running away with it before he got injured. Now we know that even if he does make it miraculously back with his procedure, aka surgery, that for some reason they're not calling surgery, for the playoffs, he's still not going to qualify for MVP based on the 65 game threshold. So if with him eliminated, I think Jokic is technically the front runner. That being said, I think Jokic actually weirdly would have been more likely to get it if Embiid had not had the first half of the season that he had. And here's my thinking for that.
Okay.
So I thought Jokic was the front runner going into the season because I thought that there was going to be some like buyer's remorse that the voters had about picking Embiid over Jokic last season because Embiid had kind of a meh playoffs and Jokic obviously showed that he's the best player in the league. So that's what I thought was going to happen heading into the season. But then Embiid was like, no, I'm really the MVP and I might get it again. And I feel like that might have sort of neutralized the buyer's remorse element. And that being said, I think voters love a narrative. They love like a underdog story. They love there to be like a story around the MVP. And I think Shea really fits that mold. So I'm going to go with Shea.
Before I move on to the next award, I just want to point out, you said like you felt like it was going to be Jokic before the season started. Then the season starts and Embiid is playing great. So it's like, well, looks like it might be Embiid, but Embiid gets hurt. So next man up is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Who's the next American player who's going to win MVP? Because it's been a long time, and Shai's Canadian, so that drought continues. Going back to when Giannis won his first MVP. You got Giannis twice, you got Jokic twice, you have Embiid. And for right now, at least on the Claire de Lune ballot, you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Who is the next American player you think is going to win MVP?
That's such an interesting question because I definitely have Luka next in line after Shai, after Jokic. So we have to get down to like, the fourth, fifth, sixth spot. But I think Anthony Edwards is going to win an MVP in the next 5 years or so. I mean, he's just on that trajectory. He's an absolute superstar. And his ascension, I think, is probably like either the biggest or one of the biggest reasons why Minnesota, has turned its fortunes around.
All right, next award, most improved player.
Yeah, so this one was interesting to me. I feel like Alperen Sengun is a really good choice for that. I think, the Rockets are kind of under the radar again because they kind of have maybe regressed to the mean a little bit. Again, with the sort of underdog story turnaround, like voters love to see unexpected teams in this race. And I also think, when I was thinking about my picks, they don't like to reward the same team twice in different categories. So I think I kind of was trying to look for different teams for each category. But I do think that the Rockets turnaround this season has been pretty remarkable and Sengun has taken a huge leap. So that would be my pick.
All right. Defensive player of the year so far.
All right. So maybe a hot take, especially I know given your recent comments on this show, but I'm going to go with Anthony Davis.
I'm sorry. I thought the team actually had to be good.
Yeah, that was the response I was expecting. And I guess the main reason why is because I do think Rudy Gobert will ultimately probably win this award. But I, spoiler alert for further questions down the line, gave Chris Finch my Coach of the Year nod.
Okay.
And again, I feel like, I understand being a number one seed, you might end up racking up a couple of these awards, but I feel like generally speaking, they try and keep it diverse as far as the team representation. So assuming that Chris Finch is my front runner for Coach of the Year, I would give Anthony Davis Depoy, but I could easily see Rudy Gobert getting that award as well.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I don't know, like there always seems to be like a trend of
teams winning all the awards or a lot of the awards. So I could absolutely see Rudy and Chris Finch both getting their awards for Minnesota there. All right, sixth man of the year. Let's see if you got my pick. Every time I say my pick, people are surprised. Malik Monk.
Oh, I love that pick, actually. Yeah.
He's been incredible for them. He's a guy, he's probably to me the best example of, yes, some players are great no matter where they go, and some players are just not good enough no matter where they go. But a lot of players are like, if you put me in a good situation, I'll be good. And so if you watch Malik Monk in Charlotte, you're like, I don't know. You watch him with the Lakers, you're like, okay, all right, so you're like a fringe guy, can hang around the league on the ends of a rotation. You watch him in Sacramento, like, this guy's great. And this is his second year now. He's really kind of got a comfort level, not only with the scoring, but what I love about him is his playmaking has gotten so much better. So that's my pick for sixth man of the year. Obviously, it's still a lot of basketball to be played, but having given you some time, do you have a name, or are you gonna
Yeah.
go along
Well, I
with
was
me?
thinking, I feel like they're gonna maybe want to reward this Clippers season in some way.
Yeah. Who do you give
I don't
it to,
know.
though?
It's interesting because I don't know what they're gonna look like post deadline, but going with my narrative theory, I feel like they could potentially reward Russell Westbrook because him taking that bench role, it was sort of the catalyst to turning their season around, and he has had a pretty productive season off the bench. I thought if he had stayed on the Lakers last year, he might have been given that six-man award last year for the exact same reason, because coming off the bench as obviously a former MVP, future Hall of Famer is not an easy move to make. So maybe him, honestly, or Norm Powell off the same team.
Yeah.
There's multiple six-man options on the Clippers. So a Clipper of some kind, maybe?
A Clipper. Well, I'll allow that. We'll allow that. A Clipper as the answer. All right. And now for the most hotly contested one. Even more contested than MVP. This is the hottest race. Rookie of the year. Do you have Chet? Do you have Wembanyama? Or are you going other? Because there are other good rookies this year.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, so you're saying that they would pick multiple players from the same team, in which case I think there's a very good chance Chet could get it, even if Shea gets MVP. I went with Wemby for two reasons. One, because of that trying to kind of diversify, pick a different team for every award ethos. And also because I think voters are very cognizant of where they sit in history, and they think about how it's going to be looked back on. And I think it's clear that although San Antonio has not had a tremendous year, they've been one of the worst teams in the league in pretty much every metric. Wemby is going to be incredible. I think we've seen enough from him to know that the hype is real. And I think Rookie of the Year will make sense on his resume when all is said and done. So I would go with Wemby, but Chet, I think, has earned it. Absolutely.
All right, I got two hypotheticals for you here.
Okay.
Hypothetical number one. What's more likely? The Timberwolves turn back into a pumpkin, or the Warriors get their act together before the end of the season?
I don't think this is the Warriors' year. And I do feel like the Timberwolves, I think that their defense is unassailable. Mm-hmm. And I think defense can absolutely win you 1, 2, 3 games in a playoff series, even. In a 7-game series, the offense just also has to be there. And I feel like their offense has been up and down. So the Timberwolves are a team where I could see them getting to the finals, and I could see them going out in the first round, just depending on what the matchups are like. And I think I'd be more shocked if the Warriors made a deep run this year than I would be if the Wolves got eliminated early.
All right. Sure. Final hypothetical for you.
Mm-hmm.
What happens more? Do the Celtics win more games in the second half of the season, or do the Pistons lose more games in the second half of the season?
I'm going to say Pistons lose.
Wow.
I think the Celtics might have peaked a little bit at the wrong time. I think they're maybe course correcting that a little bit right now, kind of putting on the brakes, it feels like, and starting to save up some steam for the playoffs. That's my impression, at least. I think they came out the gates. They wanted to prove a point. They did. #1 seed. And I think they're going to start, doing maybe some load management, some just effort management down the stretch here. So I would say the Pistons, might not win another game. I mean, I don't think they're going to turn it around.
Damn. All right. Her name's Claire de Lune. You can follow her at Claire MPLS and make sure to check out all her work on The Guardian, including her feature with Jimmy Butler. We didn't even get to talk about the Neymar part, which is fascinating. I don't know.
Yeah.
Neymar doesn't speak English and Jimmy doesn't speak Portuguese.
And they're BFF.
They're BFFs.
It's incredible. Transcends language.
And shout out to technology. But Claire, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. That was really fun.
All right, Charlotte. They unveiled the AllStar jerseys, by the way. We never really talked about this. And here they are in kind of maroon and navy blue with cream. Like, I don't know if they're going for a Hoosiers thing with the cream, kind of like a yellowed, like weathered old jersey from a yesteryear, or I don't know. What do you think about them?
I actually didn't hate them. I feel like with the return to East versus West, they are probably trying to do something very classic. My favorite part is the warm-ups, the bowling shirt with the two colors.
Yeah.
That feels I would wear that. I hope you can buy them. I would probably buy one. I can see where people would say, they're boring or not flashy or not exciting. But I think that when you're getting back to the basics of the All-Star game, I don't hate this move. I think they look pretty nice.
Yeah, I kind of wish they went back to the 80s one where it's just red and white, and it's like with the stars, and it just says NBA All-Stars on it. Those were cool. Yeah. Also, Alex, who works on the show, said, hey, what about going back to when it pays homage to the city? So I don't remember, like the Phoenix one had like a cactus on it, and the Vegas one had like playing cards and stuff like that. I wouldn't mind that as well, but yeah, I guess like these are cool. Like no one's gonna object to these. No one's gonna be like, ew, those are ugly. And I think given some of these IST jerseys that we saw, or whatever you want to call them, the signature, I can't remember the stupid ass
names. The city edition.
Yeah, I don't know, stupid ass names for jerseys. Yeah, some of them were like, maybe this is for the best, that we're like, hey guys, let's tone it down. Let's be conservative. But on the topic of alternate jerseys, there is a guy on Twitter. His name is Jake Pablo Media. And what he's been doing apparently all season long is coming up with special edition Miami Heat jerseys after every win. One of the recent ones he did was this one. It's a Lebitard show one. And I kind of thought it was pretty fire. So I was like, oh, wow, let me look through some of his other work. And he has a Flanagan's one. If you're in the Miami area, you know very well the bar Flanagan's with the green cup. So they've got one of those. They've got this one I love, a Live nightclub one.
They sure do.
One, yeah, which is just tremendous, and a Florida lottery one, and many more. Charlotte, which ones of these did you like?
I love the Publix one. I think anytime you have a jersey dedicated to a supermarket, that is very cool. I like the Art Deco one. I know you weren't quite as hot on that one. But I was also very into Florida Panthers one. They did a whole series of other teams like the Dolphins and the Marlins. And I thought the Florida Panthers one was just like classic old school, very, very fun.
Let me just give a suggestion to Jake Pablo Media. If you're thinking of what's the next one I should do, you got to do 11. You have to do 11. It's criminal that you haven't done 11 yet. You've done all these other establishments. 11 is a cornerstone of Miami and Miami culture. And so, yes, please give me an 11 one. And if you make it, I'll buy it. How about that, Jake Pablo Media?
Jake Pablo, you're going to get money from Amin. Make this. I also feel like any other fan of another team who is good at graphic design, get on this. Start making fun additions, because I need to see these for other cities. I would love to see like a Wawa one for Philly, a Dunkin' one for Boston.
Oh my God,
you can do so many fun things here. So just I don't know how to really work Illustrator, but for those who do, there's a fun lane for you here.
If anyone in Phoenix is doing this, Pizzeria Bianco. You got to make a Pizzeria Bianco Suns jersey.
There you go.
And I'll buy that one too, by the way.
That's it for us on Oddball. Yes.